Outlaws challenge a silent rancher, only to realize he's the most feared gunslinger no one remembered when the silent rancher arrived in Red Hollow. He did not announce himself, did not drink at the saloon, did not boast of cattle or land. He simply bought a strip of dust and stone on the edge of town, built a modest ranch house with his own hands, and lived as though the rest of the world had already forgotten him. Folks called him Elias Crow, though no one knew if that was his real name. He spoke little, worked from dawn till dusk, and when trouble passed through town, as it often did, he kept his head down and his eyes lowered. To the outlaws riding the Western Trail, Red Hollow was a weak town, and Elias Crow looked like its weakest man. That assumption would soon cost them everything. The outlaws arrived at noon, 6 of them, riding hard and loud, dust rising like a warning cloud behind their horses. Their leader, Boone Calder, was a scar-faced killer with a grin that never reached his eyes. He had broken towns before, burned them, bent them, made them kneel. When Boone saw Elias standing by the hitching post, repairing a broken saddle strap in silence, he laughed. A slow, cruel laugh. "Well, I'll be damned," Boone said loudly, dismounting. "Town's got itself a ghost." His men laughed with him. Elias did not look up. Boone stepped closer, boots crunching gravel, shadow falling across the rancher's hands. "You deaf, old man?" Boone asked. Still no answer. One of the outlaws kicked over Elias's water bucket, spilling it into the dirt. Another slapped the brim of Elias's hat off his head. Only then did Elias straighten. Slowly. Deliberately. He bent, picked up the hat, brushed the dust from it, and placed it back on his head. His eyes lifted just once, calm, gray, empty of fear, and then lowered again. Boone's smile twitched. Something about that look unsettled him, though he didn't know why. Word spread fast. Townsfolk gathered at windows and doorways, fear thick in their chests. They expected Elias to beg. To run. To die. Boone drew his gun halfway from its holster. "I'm feelin' bored today," he said. "You dance, rancher, or you bleed." Elias finally spoke, his voice quiet as wine through dry grass. "You should leave." The outlaws erupted in laughter. Boone froze. "Say that again." Elias didn't repeat himself. He turned his back and walked away. That was the moment Boone Calder made the worst mistake of his life. A gunshot cracked the air, not from Elias, but from Boone, fired past his shoulder, meant to scare. Elias did not flinch. He continued walking. Boone's grin vanished. "Sunset," Boone shouted. "You and me. Right here. Or I burn your ranch to ash." Elias stopped. He turned once, nodded, and kept walking. That night, Red Hollow whispered. Old men stirred from memories they thought buried. A former marshal gripped his cane tighter than necessary. A saloon owner locked her doors early. Somewhere deep in the dark, a name long unspoken crept back into the world like a ghost rising from its grave. At sunset, the street filled. Boone stood ready, his men fanned out, confident, cruel. Elias stepped into the dust alone. He wore no badge. No fancy coat. Just a weathered hat and a gun that looked older than sin. Boone smirked. "Never heard of you, rancher." Elias met his gaze. "That's the point." The wind stilled. The sun dipped. Boone reached. He never finished the draw. Elias moved, not fast, but final. One shot. Boone fell, dead before his body hit the dirt. Silence swallowed the street. The outlaws froze, terror blooming in their eyes. One whispered a name. Crow, another dropped his gun. Elias stood still, gun smoking, voice calm. "Take him," he said. "And go." They ran. That night, Red Hollow did not sleep. By morning, Boone Calder was buried outside town without a marker. His men were long gone, riding hard toward the horizon, carrying a story that would spread like wildfire. The story of a silent rancher who killed without hatred, without pride, and without mercy. Elias Crow returned to his ranch as if nothing had happened. But Red Hollow knew better now. They watched him with new eyes, some grateful, some afraid, all respectful. The truth came slowly. An old newspaper surfaced. A former bounty hunter spoke through trembling lips. Elias Crow was once known by another name, the most feared gunslinger of the Southern Territories. A man who ended wars between outlaw gangs. A man who put down tyrants when the law could not. A man who disappeared after burying his family, murdered by the very violence he once commanded. He had laid down his legend and chosen silence. Until Boone Calder forced him to pick it back up. But violence has a memory. And the West does not forget. More riders came. Faster. Deadlier. Men who had hunted Crow for years, believing him a myth. Elias faced them not as a monster, but as a man who understood the cost of every bullet. He offered mercy first. Always. Those who refused met the same end as Boone Calder. In the final confrontation, as dawn broke over the plains, Elias stood wounded but unbroken, surrounded by fallen guns. The town gathered behind him, not hiding this time. Standing. Elias looked at them once, nodded, and holstered his weapon forever. The legend was done. Elias Crow left Red Hollow before sunset. Some say he rode east. Others say he vanished into the mountains. But in Red Hollow, children sleep easier, and men speak softly of the day silence stood against terror, and won. And if you believe stories like this deserve to live on, if you want more powerful cowboy legend story, moral strength, and unforgettable storytelling, subscribe to the channel now. Because legends fade, but stories keep them alive.